Saved by the Bell. You know it. You love it. I grew up with it. I also grew up with the first spin-off, Saved by the Bell, the college years. What did I not grow up with and didn't really, get into until later, pretty much almost an adult when I found it, got into it, was the other spin-off, Saved by the Bell, the new class, which is what we're talking about today. Welcome to ScottyTV. I'm Scotty, and you're not. And, so Saved by the Bell, the new class, was nothing I was really into when I was younger, like I said. I was into the original, which by the time I was old enough to know what was going on with TV shows, like 6, 7, maybe 8 years old, get into that show. And, the show was already over. This show was probably a good point along. I'd been 8 in 1995. 10 in 97. So yeah, in 95. By then, this was like 2 seasons in at this point. Maybe 3. 93, 94, 95. The big 3 seasons in. So yeah, the show lasted from 1993 to 2000 and was the spin-off that was the more successful one. And I think that the reason it was airing, the first season aired concurrently with the college years, but the college years was pushed onto prime time because the actors were older, so they figured it'll work better in prime time. Wrong, it didn't work. But this show was in the same slot that the original had, which was Saturday mornings on NBC. And it thrived on Saturday mornings. There was some big cast changes throughout the series, and we'll get into those. But I have watched. So, big story how I got into this. So, circa 2004, right? I'm at this grocery store called Cashwise that we used to have here in Minnesota. They had a video place. You rent DVDs, some VHS. I'm looking around. And I happen to notice they have season 1 of Saved by the Bell, the new class. I'm like, oh, I heard of this. But you see, by the time I was able to know what it was in like season 3-ish. And at that point, Richard Lee Jackson had joined the cast. And so all I saw was knockoff Zach Morris. So I wasn't interested in it. This was interesting because it didn't look like, you saw Mr. Belding and you saw other characters. I'm like, who are these characters? I thought there was another blonde guy in this. Well, after doing research, yeah, there was many, actually. Yeah, so I read the first season, and I enjoyed the first season, but I knew there was something with it. And, and then years later, after I moved out here on my own, I got into YouTube. And I found a bunch of episodes on YouTube. So I've seen, thanks to YouTube, all of season 1, all of season 2, scattered episodes of 3, 4, and 5, and then all of season 6 and 7. So, yeah, I've seen a few. So I'm gonna know the least about seasons 3, 4, and 5. Mostly because I didn't, by the time I was because I watched all of season 2, watched all of season 6 and 7. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back in the middle, and I only had scattered episodes of 3 and 4, not all of them. And there was some of 5, again, just scattered on the YouTube, so wasn't much to go with those. But I do have a bunch of stuff written down. I did some research, cast changes, stuff that happened in the season. So let's start with season 1. And season 1 got a lot of criticism when it came out because it was very similar to the original show, which I think was done on purpose to kind of, get the new fans to accept it. Oh, it's just like the original. This could be okay. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Because you had the college years, which while having 4 cast members from the original was different. So having something that was familiar, I can see how they would do that. And it was on Saturday mornings, this one, Although I did watch College Years on Saturday mornings after Fox Kids was over. They play an episode or two. Yeah. So our cast, we have our main character we follow is Scott Erickson. His name is Scott. That made, when I first, I'm like, why didn't I get into that sooner? Because we have the same name, but then I would have been mad when he wasn't in the rest of the series at all. So, he plays Scott Erickson, and he is watered down Zach Morris, basically. He talks to the camera, he talks to the people at home, His first thing, he comes in, he goes, well, it's the first day of school, and I'm the new kid. He looks right at the camera, and he talks to it, and I'm like, okay, this is Zach Morris 2.0 here. This is, yeah. And he comes up with schemes. And the friend he connects with, he's not his best friend, but there's a kid named Barton Weasel Wiesel, played by Isaac Linsky. Robert Sutherland Telfer plays Erickson, Scott. But Weasel is basically Screech 2.0. He's nerdy, poofy hair, and but he hasn't known Scott. Scott's the new kid in this one, so they kind of changed that one. But then you have Tommy D and Lindsay, who are played by Jonathan Angel and Natalia Kigliuti. They're basically the Slater and Kelly clones, but it's different in this one. They're actually already dating. Tommy D is the jock, but unlike Slater, he's not very smart in the heat. So the D doesn't just stand for DeLuca, which is his last name. The D stands for his grades. But and of course, even though Lindsay is dating Tommy D, she is the eye of Scott's eye. So he wants to with her, kind of arranging stuff. And you can say Zach Morris, I don't think he ever moved on in anyone's girl. I don't think he's moving in on her. So yeah. To round out the cast, we have Bianca Lawson as Megan Jones, the African American character, Lisa Turtle, but less vain. She's more open. Then you have Bonnie Russ Savage as Vicky Needleman, who is not a carbon copy of Jessie. She's a little bit, but she's like vegan, no sugar type person, whatever. But she's also sort of nerdy. She's not exactly Jessie. She's not, but she's like the smart bookworm type character. Just a little bit different. Yeah, and of course, Mr. Belding. We also see teachers from before, like Miss Simpson, who still can't hear to save her life. Mr. Dewey, who's always still with the light. And I think Coach Sansky is in this too. I think. And there's another teacher too. We see James, who replaced Max at the Max. He pops in a couple times. Not so much. It is sort of a carbon copy. You have him at the school, you have him at the Max. Everything is very similar to the original show. And like I said, I think that's by design. But that's where the critics, were like, hey, it's too similar. So it was renewed for a second season, and they changed things up. Not only with cast members, but format of the show. So season 2 comes out. Rather than Erickson's gone, Weasel's gone, Vicky's gone. So they're gone. No more Robert Sutherland Telfer, no more Isaac Linsky, no more Bonnie Russ Savage. We are replaced now with another character we follow, Christian Oliver, playing Brian Keller. He's a foreign exchange student, and they do kind of act like these new characters have already been there, because he's talking about this character, Rachel, played by Sarah Lancaster, who was in one scene of one episode of season 1, and now she's a main character, playing Rachel Myers. And rounding out this new cast, sort of, is Spanky Rogers as Bobby Wilson. And so he's another African American character, and he's sort of the love interest for Megan. They kind of go back and forth. But Brian's goal is to get with Rachel, not Lindsay. Lindsay and Tommy D are dating. They do break up partway through the season, and even by season 3, they're not back together because they just have too many problems. And another thing that changed is this is the first season to incorporate a side story season plot, much similar to the Malibu Sands episodes from the original series. Here, at least in this season, they're at a country club that Mr. Belding is working at, and he's brought his students with him. And so that's different. Continuity is not 100% with these because some stuff happens in this that's not followed through to the other ones because they're filmed separately and vice versa. But it's fun to have something different. But the more things change, the more things stay the same. You get rid of Discount Screech, and then we get the real Screech back. Yes, Dustin Diamond returned because the new class, or no, the college years was canceled. So Dustin Diamond was free. He came onto this show, and he became Mr. Belding's student advisor through CalU, which where he was going to in college years. So he's a student advisor, and he's helping with Screech, or he's helping Belding, with stuff. So, yeah. And the more I think about this season, the more I think it was a little bit better than the first season. I liked Christian Oliver's character, Brian. He was more down to earth and less Zach Morris like. Unlike Scott Erickson, where he was basically, like I said, diet Zach Morris. Not as evil, not as scheming, but we got Brian, and Brian's more down to earth. As for Bobby Wilson, I think this is the first African American male, main character we've had in a Saved by the Bell show. So, that's progressive. And then you have Rachel, who is kind of a mixture. She's on the swim team, I think. I think she was. I know Liz was later, but and she's athletic, she's outgoing, she's a different character from those. So it's to have difference. And there's something I want to talk about. Like, I'm not going to talk about specific episodes unless they kind of count. And the only one that really stands out is the season finale of this season, because I think it was originally supposed to be the series finale because they weren't sure if they were going to get greenlit. And it seems very series finale-ish. In this 2-part episode, this former school alumni shows up going to buy Bayside. And when he does, he's going to tear it down and put it in a parking lot. Pay paradise, put up a parking lot. But the students don't want that to happen because they love Bayside, And Mr. Belding doesn't want that to happen. Screech is freaking out. Not Chief, not the school. Whatever. And and they try to convince him. He has nothing to do with it. They find out he had one friend. He had a very bad school life. He had one friend in the entire school. And so they try to contact her to come to the school dance to try to convince him. And this dance is like a last chance to convince him, but it's not working. And then they find out that she can't come because she promised her nephew that she was going to go to his wife's surprise birthday party. So the dance happens. They're all out of hope. Who should show up but A.C. Slater and Lisa Turtle, to try to convince them, but it doesn't work. They kind of, they're like, and Lisa's like, how much money do I have to pay? And big amount of money. She's like, and then the woman shows up. It's like, what do you think you're doing? You can't do this. And basically ends up talking him out of it. But it turns out the reason she is there is because her nephew is Zach Morris. Yes, for all you, Zach Morris is trash. He helped save the school. Now, I'm not keeping whatever the hell he did in the new one canon because I don't care about that show. It's nothing but woke bullshit. But here, you can tell he does care. He has changed over the years. Even in the last episode, everybody's like, all I ever dreamed of is getting out of here. And now, he was scared. So, yeah, so this is the best, some of the best years of his life were at Bayside. So, yeah, it is saved, but it does feel like, even if it wasn't renewed, bringing back some of the OG characters and all this and having this callback. They even sing the school song that they wrote during season 5, which it does make sense that it was the 3 characters, Zach, Slater, and Lisa, because they were the 3 characters that were there. You don't know if they wrote the song during the Tory mini season they had during the last season. The more I think about it, it doesn't make sense that Zach would show up but not Kelly, because she also went there. But then again, you think she's probably at a surprise party right now, and so she has to entertain guests while Zach deals with this. I don't know, but it's a fun little thing. We get to season 3, and once again there is cast changes. Christian Oliver, he's gone. No more Brian. No more Bobby Wilson, and Megan is gone. I don't remember. Let's see, does it say where No, I don't think I can figure it. If I found a reason why, I would write it down. I don't think they ever told a reason why Megan's gone. She's just gone. Different school or something. I don't know. But we get 3 new characters. I forgot to write down some at the Becker's character's name. I know it's Maria, but I don't know the last name off the top of my head. So 3 new characters come in. And this is we get Richard Lee Jackson as Ryan Parker. And even though they said they wanted to change things up from the original series, Ryan is another Zach Morris type character. He's scheming, and stuff. Like the first thing, like you got R.J. Collins, played by Salim Grant. You got Samantha Becker playing Maria, and they're all transfers from Valley. There's other transfers. They're the 3 main ones. And they meet with the other ones. Tommy D, at this point, wants to get back with Lindsay, but Ryan has eyes for Lindsay, so it's competing, much like the original series did. So I have a feeling if I started watching here, I would have compared it to the original. I don't know, but yeah, and they put heads at first, but they ended up becoming friends. And like I said, I don't know much about this season, but I know that starting this season, and for like the next 2 seasons after this as well, they start working at the Palisades Mall for their side story instead of the country club. And I know that carries into season 4 and 5, but I remember there being like a ski trip side plot in season 5, but I couldn't find anything. I was just skimming through stuff, but yeah. And I know that Ryan does end up dating Lindsay, but by season 4 they're not together anymore because moving to season 4 now, Jonathan Angel and Natalia Gigliotti left after season 3. And the excuse they used, which kind of makes me scratch my head every time I think about it, is that they were both transferred to different schools. But if you think about it, during season 1 they were sophomores, which means in season 2 they would be juniors, and then in season 3 they'd be seniors. So why not say that they were older than the others and they graduated? Wouldn't it make more sense? Logic? They're replaced by Katie Peterson, played by Lindsay McKeon, and Eric Little, played by Anthony Harrell. And as far as I know, those 2 characters, I don't know if they get proper introductions or if they're just already there. As far as I remember, they're just known that they're there. I've seen the first episode of this, and it feels like they're just there, like with Rachel and with Brian seasons before. But another character, Nikki Farina, who played by Ben Gould, who I mentioned in the was it Frankenstein Reborn? Wasn't it? He was in that one. He's Ryan's stepbrother from New York, and he's moved to Cali with his dad, his mom, Ryan's dad, I think. Got married over the summer, new stepbrother, he's going to Bayside now. And they really kind of jump things with these characters. So Ryan starts dating Rachel in this season, and Nikki at first has eyes for Maria, but then ends up dating Katie. I know that because he's dating Katie when season 6 starts, at least, that I know of. Eric is on a football team. Nikki is not yet. They all end up, like, I don't know. And, yeah, it's still... Let's see, what else I got? Tommy D moves to Florida. Lindsay transfers to a private school, and Tommy D moved to Florida. That's what I have down. Um, in this season 4, the Max burns down. Most likely for the same reason they burned down Arnold's in Happy Days, because they wanted to acclimate the, the set to afflict that of the 90s. Now they were heavily in the 90s, going, towards the late 90s, and they wanted to acclimate that to look like the 90s. It was very 80s looking, so they changed it. It worked. And it does look pretty good that I can remember. I did watch the 2-parter online, part of it. And Slater does come back. He's probably the only one, I think, to talk about the Max and stuff. So that's pretty cool. But, yeah, let's get to season 5 now. Kind of just going through. Season 5, not too many changes. Rachel is gone. She moves to Boston, which means that Ryan is no longer dating anyone, but new character Liz Miller, played by Ashley Lincoln Fagna, who was in Wolfman Reborn. Shows she's the new character. She's the swimmer, and she's the new girl. According to this said the side story. There's the Mall, France, and Habitat for Humanity's side stories in this. So they really went all in it on it, I guess. But yeah, nothing really to say. Ryan's last season because he's hanging out, but I never looked down for season 6 or 7. But yeah, season 5, I only saw a couple episodes of that. It's fine, I'm not talking about. Liz is brought in, Rachel was gone, and they basically just swap as it goes for Ryan. Ryan was dating Rachel, she's gone, and he ends up dating Liz. And then season 6 starts, and Ryan leaves. I couldn't find a reason why he leaves. He's just gone. And we're introduced to Tony Dillon, played by Tom Wade Huntington. And he actually has, the story embedded into this series because he was dating Maria, and he supposedly stood her up. And then she got transferred to Bayside, and now he's been transferred to Bayside. And he's on the football team. Eric's on the football team. Nikki gets on the football team. All the guys are on the football team. Who's on first? No, that's baseball. But anyway, yeah. And Ryan leaves. That's all I have down. I forgot to mention other stuff. Season 6 and 7 were done, filmed back to back because originally they had issued a 26 episode 6th season. But they were pretty sure that this was going to be a last season, so they cut it in half. 13 episodes for season 6, 13 episodes for season 7. Cast stayed the same. No other big changes. Screech is still around. Basically no changes. But it is the finale that is the big one. And as I mentioned, Nikki and Katie break up. Tony and Maria start dating, and they break up. And yes, their names are Tony and Maria, so this is West Side Story. There's a rumble tonight, a very big rumble tonight. I don't know. Yeah. And the series ends, and this feels like this is probably the only way that they could, there's not going to be any spin-offs. It ends with Mr. Belding leaving Bayside. He gets an offer to teach, to be a headmaster or something at the dean of students, or teach somewhere at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, which is actually Dennis Haskins' real alma mater. So he takes the offer. So it's Mr. Belding's last graduation ceremony, and everyone graduates. They sing the song again. Eric is also a singer. I forgot to mention that. Eric is also a singer, and there are several plots about him wanting to be a singer. This series, more so than the other because it lasts longer, has the message episodes about addiction and smoking and cigars and drugs and all that stuff. More so than the original series because there's more episodes to work with, and so there's more of those. And remember there's one with Eric where he's like doing something, like maybe like he's not sleeping or something. He's taking like wake up pills and that. That's something I don't know. I know there's one with Liz where she's taking like caffeine pills or something. Not caffeine pills, that was Jesse. Something for the swim team thing. I don't know. I'm not gonna go back every little subplot, but yeah. And they all graduate, and that's how the series ends. You gotta end it that way. So all of our characters are gone. I've graduated. Mr. Belding's gone. Only one left is Screech. And a lot of people have assumed that Screech becomes the principal. Here's the thing: you gotta go to school for that. You gotta go to college. And then that's what he's been doing on the side. I don't think he's gonna be principal. Although I would like to almost keep it canon if we're keeping the new one canon and say that Screech was put in charge. He burned the school down, which is why it looks completely different now. I'm just saying. But that's also why he's forced to go into space. Instead, he was on the space station or something. You know what I think. But yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty good series. It's not as good as the original, but it's still enjoyable. There's some very good casting choices. But yeah. So this has been the very first installment of the new ScottyTV. Hope you enjoyed it. I plan on doing more of these. You know, they won't just be talking about TV shows. They'll be like top 10s and sometimes I'll do like, I plan on doing one on the Seinfeld Curse. I plan on doing one on like spin-off TV shows. It's not a top 10, just talking about spin-off shows. Just talking about them. No specific order, just talking about them. Because some shows have spun off, some good, some weird, some bad spin-off shows, and so I really want to talk about those. And yeah, I don't know what I'm doing next, but thank you for joining me on this. So what are your thoughts on Saved by the Bell? The new class in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. This has been ScottyTV, and I'll see you in the next one.